Every single day, we are told that the secret to success is to work harder. We are bombarded with images of people staying in the office until the sun rises, of entrepreneurs surviving on 4 hours of sleep, and of the hustle culture that suggests if you aren't exhausted, you aren't trying. But I am here to tell you that exhaustion is not a trophy. Sweat is not a strategy. If hard work alone were the secret to wealth and fulfillment, the person breaking stones on the side of the road would be the wealthiest person in the city. But they aren't. There is a missing piece to the puzzle, a catalyst that transforms effort into impact, and that catalyst is smart work. Smart work is the bridge between activity and achievement. It is the realization that your brain is a far more powerful tool than your back. When we talk about smart work, we aren't talking about shortcuts or laziness. We are talking about the ultimate form of discipline, the discipline of focus. The tragedy of the modern era is that we have become efficiently ineffective. We have become experts at doing things that shouldn't be done at all. We answer 100 emails that don't move our projects forward. We attend 3-hour meetings to discuss things that could have been settled in a 5-minute conversation. We spend our best hours on our worst tasks. Smart work begins with the courage to stop and ask, why am I doing this? It is about moving from a reactive state to a proactive state. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their day to the world. They check their notifications, they respond to other people's emergencies, and they spend the rest of the day trying to catch up. They are working hard, but they are playing defense. To work smart is to play offense. It is to decide, before the world has a chance to distract you, what your primary objective is. It is the understanding that not all tasks are created equal. In every endeavor, there are a few vital actions that drive the majority of the results. The smart worker identifies those vital few and ignores the trivial many. This is the philosophy of the lever. Archimedes once said, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I will move the world." Smart work is that lever. It is about finding the point of maximum impact. Think about the difference between a person who spends 10 hours trying to push a heavy boulder up a hill by hand and a person who spends 2 hours building a simple pulley system. The first person is working 5 times as long and 10 times as hard, but the second person is the one who actually gets the job done. This is the essence of what we are discussing today. You must stop being the person who pushes the boulder and start being the person who builds the system. This requires a shift in identity. You have to stop seeing yourself as a worker and start seeing yourself as a strategist. A worker asks, "How much can I do?" A strategist asks, "What is the most important thing to do?" The psychological barrier to smart work is often the fear of what others will think. Our society has a deep-seated bias toward visible effort. If you are sitting at your desk looking at a blank wall, thinking deeply about a problem, people might think you are doing nothing. But if you are typing furiously at your keyboard and looking stressed, people think you are a high performer. You must have the internal strength to ignore the performance of busyness. Smart work is often quiet. It is often invisible. It involves deep thinking, planning, and saying no. Saying no is perhaps the most important tool in the smart worker's toolkit. Every time you say yes to a non-essential task, you are saying no to your greatest potential. You are trading your brilliance for a bit of temporary approval. Smart work is the path of the essentialist. It is about stripping away the clutter until only the core remains. To truly master this, we have to look at the concept of energy management over time management. We have been taught to manage our minutes, but minutes are not all the same. An hour of work when you are exhausted, hungry, and distracted is worth almost nothing. But an hour of work when you are focused, energized, and clear-headed can change the trajectory of your career. Smart work is about honoring your biology. It is about knowing when your brain is at its peak and guarding that time with your life. If you are a morning person, your most difficult, most creative, and most valuable work should be done then. You don't spend your peak hours on administrative tasks. You don't spend your golden hours on social media. You treat your focus as if it were a bank account with a limited balance. You don't spend it on things that don't give you a return. Furthermore, smart work requires us to embrace the concept of deliberate practice. Most people show up to work and do what they did yesterday. They get 10 years of experience, but it's really just 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. They are working hard, but they aren't getting better. The smart worker is always looking for a way to improve the process. They treat their work like a science experiment. They track their results, they analyze their failures, and they constantly refine their approach. They don't just do work, they study work. They understand that by improving their skill by just 1% every day, they will be unrecognizable in a year. This is the compounding interest of smart work. It doesn't look like much in the beginning, but over time, it creates a gap between you and the rest of the world that no amount of hard work can ever close. Finally, in this first part of our journey, we must address the myth of the grind. The grind suggests that life is a war of attrition, that the last person standing wins. But smart work teaches us that the person who wins is the one who solves the problem most elegantly. We must fall in love with results, not with the process of suffering. If you can achieve the same result in 2 hours that someone else achieves in 8, you haven't cheated, you have succeeded. You have gained 6 hours of life. You have gained 6 hours to spend with your family, to work on your health, or to dream of your next big idea. Smart work is the ultimate act of self-respect because it recognizes that your life is more than your labor. Moving from the philosophy of smart work into the practical reality of daily execution requires us to look at the systems we inhabit. We often think that our output is a result of our willpower, but the truth is that our output is a result of our environment and the systems we have put in place. If you rely on willpower to work smart, you will fail. Willpower is a finite resource. It is like a battery that drains throughout the day. By the time you reach the afternoon, your ability to make high-level decisions and resist distractions is depleted. Smart work is about building a success infrastructure so that you don't have to rely on willpower. It is about automating the mundane and systematizing the essential so that your creative energy is preserved for the things that truly matter. One of the most powerful systems of smart work is the zero-interruption environment. We live in an age of digital noise. Every beep, every buzz, and every red dot on our screens is a deliberate attempt to hijack our attention. Research shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to regain full focus after being interrupted. If you are interrupted just 3 or 4 times a day, you have effectively lost your ability to do deep work for that entire day. A smart worker treats their attention like a fortress. They don't leave their email open all day. They check it at specific intervals. They don't leave their phone on the desk. They put it in another room. They understand that multitasking is a biological impossibility. What we call multitasking is actually context switching, and it comes with a massive cognitive tax. Every time you switch from a complex task to a quick text message, you leave a residue of attention on that message, making you less effective at the task you were trying to complete. To work smart is to do one thing at a time with absolute intensity. We must also look at the power of leverage points. In any system, there are certain points where a small amount of effort produces a massive change. In your career, these are the high-leverage skills. A hard worker focuses on the task at hand. A smart worker focuses on the skill that makes all tasks easier. For example, if you spend 3 months mastering the art of public speaking or persuasive writing, you have gained a skill that will amplify every project you ever work on for the rest of your life. If you learn how to use artificial intelligence or advanced data analysis, you have acquired a tool that allows you to do in seconds what used to take hours. Smart work is about identifying these force multipliers. It's about asking, what can I learn today that will make me 10 times more effective tomorrow? If you are not spending at least 10% of your time sharpening your tools, you are falling behind. The world is changing too fast for brute force to be a sustainable strategy. Another critical component of the smart work system is the feedback loop. Most people work in a vacuum. They do the work, they send it off, and they move to the next thing. But without feedback, you are flying blind. A smart worker builds mechanisms to measure their effectiveness. They look at the data. They ask for honest, even brutal feedback from mentors and peers. They aren't afraid of being wrong. They are afraid of staying wrong. They use the after-action review method. After every major project, they ask, what was supposed to happen? What actually happened? Why was there a difference? What will I do differently next time? This is how you turn experience into expertise. Hard work is doing 10,000 repetitions of a movement. Smart work is doing 1,000 repetitions while constantly adjusting your form based on the results you see. Let us also discuss the concept of strategic procrastination. This sounds counterintuitive in a motivational speech, but it is a cornerstone of smart work. There are two types of procrastination. The first is passive procrastination, which is avoiding work because you are lazy or scared. This is a dream killer. But the second is active procrastination, which is the deliberate choice to delay a task because it isn't the highest priority right now. A smart worker knows that they cannot do everything. Therefore, they choose to procrastinate on the low-value tasks. They let the small fires burn so they can focus on building the big cathedral. This requires a high degree of emotional maturity. We all want to feel the satisfaction of clearing our inbox, but a smart worker understands that an empty inbox is often a sign of a wasted day. They are comfortable with the unfinished nature of minor things because their eyes are fixed on the major things. Furthermore, we must recognize the role of network leverage. No one reaches the top alone. A hard worker tries to do everything themselves because they think they are the only ones who can do it right. This is a recipe for burnout and mediocrity. A smart worker understands that they are part of an ecosystem. They build relationships with people whose skills complement their own. They understand the law of delegation. If someone else can do a task 80% as well as you can, you should delegate it. This frees you up to operate in your zone of genius. That intersection of what you are exceptionally good at and what brings the most value to the world. When you delegate, you aren't just offloading work. You are empowering others and scaling your impact. You move from being an individual contributor to being a conductor. Finally, we have to talk about the biology of peak performance. Your brain is an organ, and it is subject to the laws of physiology. You cannot expect a high-performance output from a neglected biological system. Smart work means treating your body like a high-performance engine. This involves time blocking for rest, just as aggressively as you block time for work. It means understanding circadian rhythms. It means realizing that a 20-minute nap or a walk in nature isn't time off. It's recalibration. When you step away from a problem, your subconscious mind continues to work on it. This is why our best ideas often come in the shower or during a run. The aha moment rarely happens when you are staring at a screen in a state of stress. It happens when you give your brain the space to make connections. Smart work is the rhythm of intense focus followed by deep recovery. This second part of our journey shows us that smart work is a technical discipline. It is about the environment you curate, the tools you master, the feedback you seek, and the biology you respect. It is about being the director of your own energy. As we transition into the final part of this speech, we will look at how to sustain this over a lifetime. We will look at the long-term vision and the legacy that smart work creates, not just for your career, but for your soul. You are not a machine designed for constant output. You are a human being designed for significant contribution. The final stage of mastering smart work is the integration of vision and sustainability. It is one thing to work smart for a week or a month. It is another thing entirely to build a life around this principle. To do this, you must develop a long-term filter. Every opportunity, every project, and every request that comes your way must be passed through this filter. You must ask, does this move me closer to the person I want to be in 5 years? If the answer is no, then it doesn't matter how efficiently you can do it. It is still a waste of time. Smart work is not just about doing things faster, it's about making sure you're headed in the right direction. There is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. This brings us to the concept of intellectual honesty. To work smart, you must be ruthlessly honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. Most people waste decades trying to fix their weaknesses. They are a C at math, so they spend all their time trying to become a B. This is hard work, but it is not smart work. A smart worker knows that greatness comes from doubling down on your A strengths. If you are an incredible storyteller but a terrible bookkeeper, hire a bookkeeper. Don't spend your life struggling to be average at something you hate. When you focus on your strengths, you are working with the grain of your nature instead of against it. This is where effortless power comes from. It's when your work feels like play to you, but looks like hard work to everyone else. That is the ultimate competitive advantage. We also need to address the sunk cost fallacy. Hard workers often stick with a failing project or a dead-end career path because they have already put so much work into it. They think that walking away would be a waste of all that effort. But a smart worker understands that the time and energy already spent are gone. They are sunk. The only question that matters is, what is the best use of my next hour? If the best use of your next hour is to quit a failing project and start something new, then that is what you do. Smart work requires the humility to admit when you are wrong and the courage to change course. It is about being committed to the destination, but being flexible about the path. As we look toward the future, we must realize that smart work is the only way to avoid the obsolescence trap. In the coming years, artificial intelligence and automation will take over almost every task that is repetitive, predictable, and based on hard work alone. If your value is based on how many hours you can sit in a chair or how much data you can manually process, you are at risk. But if your value is based on smart work, on strategy, on creative problem solving, on emotional intelligence, and on the ability to synthesize complex ideas, you will be more valuable than ever. Smart work is your insurance policy against a changing world. It is the shift from being a human doing to being a human thinker. Let us also talk about the moral dimension of smart work. There is a quiet nobility in efficiency. When you work smart, you are being a good steward of the life you've been given. You are refusing to waste the miracle of your existence on meaningless busyness. You are creating a life where you have the resources to help others. Think about the impact you can have when you aren't constantly stressed and overwhelmed. When you have mastered your work, you have the surplus energy to be a better parent, a more present friend, and a more active member of your community. Smart work isn't just about your bank account, it's about your capacity for contribution. It allows you to move from a life of getting to a life of giving. Finally, I want you to consider the legacy of the light touch. The people who truly change the world are rarely those who are the loudest or the most exhausted. They are the ones who find the tipping points. They are the ones who speak the right word at the right time, who make the right connection, and who see the simple solution to the complex problem. They move through life with a sense of grace and intentionality. They know that life is not a sprint, and it's not even a marathon. It's a series of focused sprints followed by deliberate rest. They don't measure their worth by their exhaustion, but by their impact. As you go out into the world, carry this mantra with you: impact over activity. Every morning when you wake up, don't ask what you have to do. Ask what you want to achieve. Look at your tasks and find the 20% that will give you the 80% of your joy and success. Sharpen your axe before you hit the tree. Build a system so you don't have to rely on a struggle. Protect your focus like the treasure it is. And most importantly, remember that the goal of work is to build a life you don't need a vacation from. The grind is a lie told to keep you from realizing your true power. Your power doesn't lie in your ability to suffer. It lies in your ability to think, to choose, and to execute with precision. You were not born to be a cog in a machine. You were born to be the engineer. You were not born to drown in a sea of to-do lists. You were born to navigate toward your own horizon. Work hard on the things that matter, but work smart enough to know what those things are. The world is waiting for your unique contribution, and it won't be found in the hours you waste, but in the brilliance you focus. Stand tall, think deeply, and act with intention. This is the path of the smart worker. This is the path to a life of greatness. The time for mindless hustle is over. The era of intentional impact has begun. Go forth and work smart, and in doing so, reclaim your time, your energy, and your life. You have the tools, you have the mindset, and you have the vision. Now go and make it a reality.